They laughed when the sole finally peeled away during morning formation. A soft rip-like fabric tearing echoed across the concrete. Heads turned, smiles spread. The cadets noticed her boots, first cracked leather, frayed laces, one heel lower than the other, and then they noticed her. She kept her eyes forward as the jokes landed, sharp and careless, each one pretending to be harmless. What they didn't know was that those boots had already walked through something. None of them had survived. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Lena Harper, though most people didn't bother to learn it. She was the quiet one at the edge of the formation, the one who never complained, the one who stitched her socks at night because new ones weren't an option. Inside her chest, a familiar debate stirred. Should she explain? Should she ask for help? Pride argued with practicality. Shame whispered that asking would only make it worse. So she stood still while the morning sun climbed and dust drifted through the air like tiny, glowing accusations. The teasing followed her through drills. When they ran, her stride faltered. When they marched, her steps were half a beat behind. She felt the sting with every impact, leather rubbing raw skin, pain blooming and fading with each command. She remembered her mother's voice, gentle, stubborn, telling her to finish what she started, even if no one clapped at the end. Lena had promised herself she would. She just hadn't promised it would be painless. By midday, the sergeant major arrived. He moved through the training ground with a gravity that bent the air. Conversations thinned to murmurs. Spines straightened. His boots polished, unyielding, struck the concrete in a steady rhythm. He stopped in front of the formation, eyes scanning faces, pausing longer than comfortable. When his gaze landed on Lena's feet, something changed. Not anger, not judgment, recognition. Step forward, he said. Her stomach dropped. The crowd leaned in. She stepped out, the broken sole flapping once, betraying her. Heat climbed her neck. The sergeant major crouched, close enough that she could smell metal and leather and the faint trace of oil. He didn't touch the boots. Instead, his eyes lifted to the dog tag at her chest. May I? He asked. She nodded. His fingers closed around the tag, turning it so the light caught the engraved name. He read it once, then again. The yard seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere, a flag snapped in the wind. The sergeant major stood slowly, as if the ground itself required respect. Harper, he said, voice steady. Any relation to Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper? Lena swallowed. My father, sir. A ripple passed through the cadet's whispers. Widened eyes. The sergeant major's jaw tightened, then softened. He remembered Daniel Harper. Everyone did. The rescue that went wrong, the decision that saved a platoon and cost one life, the name etched into a memorial wall, and now, onto a dog tag worn by his daughter. The sergeant major faced the formation. These boots, he said, have walked farther than you think. Silence pressed in, heavy and instructive, and this cadet has carried more than you know. For a moment, Lena wondered if this was pity. If she wanted it, the moral weight settled in. Should respect come from legacy, or from effort alone? The answer arrived without words. The sergeant major turned back to her. After formation, he said quietly, report to supply. The day shifted after that, not dramatically, subtly. Eyes softened. Jokes died before forming. When she ran again, someone matched her pace. When she faltered, a hand steadied her elbow, then let go. At supply, she was issued new boot soled, fitted, ready. She held them like something sacred that evening. As the sun dipped low and the ground cooled, the sergeant major watched from a distance as Lena laced them up. She stood taller not because of the boots, but because she had never quit without them. The applause came later, unplanned and brief, as cadets passed her on the way back to barracks. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be, because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. And just like that first torn step on cold concrete, the day began with laughter and ended with understanding. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs the reminder. Subscribe for more stories of quiet strength and earned respect. And tell me in the comments what moments stayed with you the longest.